Hi and welcome back to Cheeky Crypto. My name is Nick and today we are going to be jumping down into the charts for XRP, but we're going to be taking a look at things slightly differently. I will go through the short time stuff that's going on right now so you can take a look at the hourly. We'll go into the longer term pictures and we'll also take a look at a few additional things around the alt season and all the fantastic things that I think are yet to come. As I get into this video, if you find it useful and informative, hit the like button. I really do appreciate that. If you happen to be new to the channel, why not go ahead and subscribe, tap the bell, select all notifications, and in doing so, you will be kept up to date with every video that we do here at Cheeky Crypto. If you have not yet joined us in Discord, links in the description down below. Fantastic community talking crypto 24/7. It's completely free to join, and I don't think you'll be disappointed by what you find down there. So why not go ahead and check it out? Right, with all that said, done out of the way, let's get right down into business, right? XRP paired up with USDT, hourly chart, and Binance is the data source. So originally we were tracking for a kind of a fourth and a fifth wave upwards, right? We're targeting about 80 cent or so. Unfortunately, we lost the grounds for that. Unfortunately, we invalidated it by moving down lower than the wave one. So essentially, I've had to remap this as a big ABC upwards, some kind of ABC here and an ABC this side. So basically, it's just a triple move. And yeah, basically very, very corrective, nothing impulsive, no kind of five-wave trend move upwards. Instead, what we've seen is a breakdown, right? So we have the wave 4 pulling us back down, and essentially that wave 4 converted this into a deeper corrective move. So obviously, since we have the ABC moving on up here, essentially what we've got is basically a wave 1, a wave 2, and then we hit the impulsive trigger points to go down lower, creating a wave 3, and now we're looking for a wave 4 up before hitting a final fifth wave down lower. Okay, so for XRP, and there's a lot to take in here. We were thinking 5 waves up, that was invalidated, and instead we started 5 waves down. Okay, so we kind of did a 180 very, very quickly here as Bitcoin decided to do a reversal on the market, which is fine. We've been talking about Bitcoin pulling back anyway, and it was a shame that we couldn't quite reach the fifth wave high here for XRP. Nonetheless, the downside is minimal, and we can kind of measure this out of where we think things are likely to go. And we can take a look at this maybe as a corrective move of a 335 potentially. But I do think there's potentially more room to the downside, and I'll talk about that later as we kind of get into the bigger picture. So, what we're going to tell you is we're going to first of all measure the distance here. So let me just go ahead and grab the fib on our third wave here. Okay, so this third wave. This allows us to then kind of predict out where we think that fourth wave is likely to go. So what I will do is actually draw this the other way around. It'll make it a little bit easier to explain what's going on here. But we take it from the high down to the low, and I should actually go ahead and put it on that high point just there. Okay, and then what we do is we'll grab this yellow box. Basically, we should be anywhere between 14.6, which is this low range just here, up to about 38.2%. Okay, that is a typical wave 4 move. Okay, that's kind of the area that you'd expect most typically for a wave 4 move to kind of go. Okay, so we have that kind of scoped out. Now what I'll do is I'll just quickly mark those up with some price tags so we can kind of see exactly what we are talking about here. Let me just grab that. There we go. Cool. And then I'll just move this one across. So basically this bounced to the upside anywhere between 73.51 and 74.87. Okay, so we're at the moment, as you can see, we're progressing right up into that box right now, and we're right in the sweet spot for a wave 4 and potentially a pullback, go down a little bit lower. Now, if I bring the stochastic RSI back into play here, you can see that we have moved from an overbought area and heading up now to the oversold area. So there isn't too much more price room to grow here before we start to see this thing pull back down again. And if we take a look at the 4-hourly chart, you can see that's already oversold. The 8-hourly chart here is just coming down into the oversold. So I think by the time we finish that fifth wave, that'll hopefully put us right there. And the daily chart is actually, you know, in an okay spot. It could be better, it could be worse. So we'll talk about that in a moment. And of course, the weekly is where the weekly is as well, pulling back down. So if I come back into this for a moment, I think, yeah, we're probably going to be no higher than 74.87 on a probable scale. So if we were to then go ahead and measure this basically as our wave 4 retracement, so we take it from the low of wave 3 to the current high points. I'm going to actually go ahead and put it right up here on that top. So let's hypothetically say we do go to 74.87. What I'll do is I'll then mark up the probable areas for a wave 5, right? And we've got some interesting levels of support that are actually resonating incredibly well with the 618 here as well. So I'll just go ahead and draw these in. And then what I'll do is I'll grab hold of our correction price labels here. We'll just drop that in. It's actually 33, so I'll just drop that there a second, and then we'll drop that higher point in right about here. Okay, and that should be 115. Yeah, that's perfect. Cool. So I'm going to go ahead and remove that. So basically, what am I thinking? Well, I'm thinking that we should be moving up into this fourth wave high, about 74.87. Okay, and then we pull back down. And this is going to be the fifth wave low, meaning that from here we actually should end up with some kind of ABC structure going upwards in a more significant way. It's too hard to know exactly where that's going to go right this second, but one to kind of keep an eye on. Where this fifth wave is at the moment is something that we've been potentially talking about for a while, specifically with this deeper correction. We were looking for some kind of bounce upwards, and I do expect us to bounce on up a little bit further. All in all, we could probably articulate this as a 5-wave move this side, but I think it's going to be an interesting one to see how high the ABC goes. If we go higher than we were previously, then I'll have to do some recounting on what's going on this side at the end of that fifth wave low, because there was a 335 coming down here, and we started to track up, but this 5-wave move down is unusual in itself in its positioning, so I'll have to probably recap what's going on this side for a moment. If and when we actually push up a little bit higher, I'll have a look at that and see how that one plays out. But for now, everything stands on this 5-wave move down. We should push up and then we should pull back down, finishing that move along with Bitcoin. Bitcoin's doing something very, very similar: push up then pull back down. Okay, cool. So that's kind of the short time view on the hourly. Let's now talk about some of the more interesting higher level stuff, right? Because essentially, this is actually the real cool kind of stuff that's going on for XRP, and it is happening on the higher time frames, right? So essentially, what we are, if I just bring this back down into our daily view and zoom it out a bit, you can see that we're tracking a big A wave coming up. If I bring that back and down, I spoke about this quite a few times. Big A wave coming up, B wave triangle, C wave going up higher. So the setup here is already in place. We're kind of ready and primed for the next big move and the big surge going up higher. But I do expect us to have some more downside. So as I said, we've got 5 waves going down. I expect 3 waves to go up and then another 5 waves coming down. That would actually put us in a pretty good position on our E wave, which is inside this Elliott wave triangle, right down over here. We are potentially in the bounce right now. So if we were to think of this as a big A, B, C, we move on up a little bit, and we'll have to just kind of watch out what happens with those 5-wave counts on those hourly charts, because they're not quite where I'd expect them to be. But that being said, on here, this is a pretty clear move, and we have this ABC. Now, all in all, that's actually a bigger move of A, and then we'll have a bounce, and then we have a B, right? So we end up with this bigger ABC move playing out on the daily chart. So all the micro movements that are going on, all the noise of the hourly chart, just kind of park that and forget about it for a second. That's kind of like, sniping out positions and where you might want to do a dollar cost average or do some trading. But on the larger time frame, this is about the bigger picture. This is about where we are going slightly longer term, and the setup is here, and it's already kind of playing out really, really well. Basically, the A, B, C, D, E, and we're halfway through the E at the moment, potentially just pushing up a little bit higher with some kind of ABC function here inside our B wave. So we'll be pulling down. I do think this is going to be somewhere between 50 and 60 cent by the time it is all done. And I do expect Bitcoin to pull back down to the low 30s. Okay, and that's kind of something I've been talking about. Check out the Bitcoin video if that's your thing. You want to understand what Bitcoin is doing. Ultimately, once that is done, I'm expecting Bitcoin to go on one hell of a run. Essentially, Bitcoin's data is suggesting that there's going to be one significant price surge for BTC, mainly because there's such a huge amount of accumulation going on right now. So this is just Glassnode data for Bitcoin, and we've basically seen over 2.6 million Bitcoin leave in the last few months, right? In the last 4 months from exchanges, right? That's a huge amount of Bitcoin being squeezed. The supply is being squeezed, right? It's being taken off of the exchanges. The balance of Bitcoin on exchanges is at a multi-year low, and all of these things are going to have a catalyst for new all-time highs for Bitcoin. And when Bitcoin does that, I'm expecting XRP to also start its journey to the upside and really start to kind of get some good momentum behind it. Now, in terms of where I think Bitcoin's going to go, I think it's going to have a new all-time high. Anywhere between 79,000 and 108,000 seems to be the most probable to me personally. But check out my Bitcoin videos if you're more into that kind of stuff. But for XRP, it puts us in a really good spot, right? Understanding that, that Bitcoin's going to have such a surge like that, we should also be expecting a pretty big surge here for XRP. Now, on the most part here, it's possible that this goes impulsive and we go way past this target. But from a technical standpoint, at the moment, the data is suggesting to me $9.97. Okay, that is basically from that low E wave where I think we're going to end up about 16x's. Okay, so from 50 cent up to about $9.97. It's about 1,618% if we were to take it from 57 cent, which is probably the area that we're looking at. Okay, so for XRP, this is a significant increase. Now, people will say, oh, it's going to $100, it's going to $589, it's going to $1,000, $10,000, whatever number you believe it's going to go to, that's fine. From my standpoint, I can see the data, and the data is suggesting to me $9.97, okay? So that seems like a pretty good area. It can overwick it, it can go shorter, but for the most part, that's the area that I'm looking at. Of course, if we were to overextend, some of these numbers are absolutely insane, and I do think they're very possible. Of course, I do think that there's going to have to be significant things that happen to drive this, okay? But let's talk a little bit about Bitcoin dominance as well and alt seasons, because this is actually where we get really interesting kind of data, right? So let me just turn this off auto so I can move this around a little bit. So basically the previous bull run, if I just grab my pencil here, basically Bitcoin was just, bumbling along. There wasn't that many altcoins, but basically the bull run started for the alts, and basically Bitcoin dominance pulls all the way down. Okay, then Bitcoin starts to actually get some traction in itself. Money goes into Bitcoin, doesn't necessarily roll out of altcoins. There's a little bit of turbulence there, but nothing too much. Bitcoin goes all the way up to this yellow dashed line. This yellow dashed line here essentially is the all-time high for BTC back in 2018. Now, or 2017. Now, if we actually go ahead and check out what's going on here, and we zoom on into this, we can see that Bitcoin's Bitcoin dominance actually was peaking before we actually got the all-time high. Okay, so Bitcoin started to actually lose its dominance even though it hit an all-time high afterwards. And what we actually saw was Bitcoin dominance drop down as the alt season started, all the way down to 32%. Okay, really important number that we just have to remember. Okay, so essentially what we've got is basically Bitcoin dominance pulling down to around 37%, then rallied up to about 67%, and then plummeted to 32% during the alt season. And now, obviously, we go into bear market, we see Bitcoin get some more kind of standard dominance in the space, but not as high as it was previously, mainly because there's more altcoins. And then again, you see the same thing, right? Back in December of 2020, the alts started to get some rallying behind them, and Bitcoin has kind of been turbulent a little bit with its dominance area, but it hasn't really dropped down to those significant levels. So we are pretty much in this early stages, and I think we're basically having the initial pullback. Bitcoin's got to go up and increase its dominance and have its peak. And this is where we are at the moment. We haven't seen that happen. And once we do see Bitcoin dominance actually go up there, reach those peaks, then we'll start to see the alt season. Now, on this chart, what I can do is actually show you the overlay of what Bitcoin looked like in terms of price. Let me throw that on. We'll throw on some Stellar, we'll throw XRP on there, we'll throw Litecoin, and we'll throw Ethereum on as well, right? And now we get a bigger picture, a bigger view over what is actually going on with all of these projects, and they're overlaid on this chart, right? So essentially we've got the pink line here being Bitcoin, as you can see Bitcoin peaking, and you see Ethereum peaking afterwards. You see Litecoin pretty much peaked at the same time as Bitcoin, but you see XRP here, the yellow line, peaking pretty much around the same time as Ethereum, a little bit before Ethereum, but after Bitcoin. And essentially you say the same thing with XLM as well. So essentially what you're looking at here is the phased approach of how money starts rolling around the market once Bitcoin actually has its peak, right? And basically once all these have peaked out, they eventually just kind of dwindle down into a bear market lows. Okay, so really interesting stuff is on the horizon here. We haven't really seen the highs that we need to for Bitcoin yet to really bring in the highs of what we're expecting for XRP, but the traction is definitely there. We've got the setup with the SEC, the Ripple lawsuit. I do think that's going to end in settlement. I speak about this all the time, and yeah, I think it's going to be an interesting play. We don't know how long it's going to take, but I would imagine that those discussions are in place right now. They're pretty much going to be pretty significant, I would have thought. The SEC should be highly concerned. But then again, I thought this pretty much from day dot that they were foolish for taking on such a case. But there we go. I think that the case is going to come to conclusion shortly, and I think that's going to be the catalyst for this big price surge. Now, I do think we're going to follow what Bitcoin does out of this triangle. So even if we don't have settlement by the time we actually start moving on out of here, that would actually put us in a stronger position if it gets delayed, believe it or not. Because if we can actually get some traction up towards some of these higher levels without the fantastic news of settlement or some kind of victory for Ripple or whatever happens there, essentially, I think there's going to be an absolutely insane amount of FOMO that would kick in and drive this thing absolutely off the charts, insane levels. Okay, so I think, yeah, there's lots of things, lots of variables to consider, but the foundations are being built right now. We can see that we're tight inside this triangle. We're waiting and ready and poised for a big explosive move to the upside overall. Guys, I'm going to leave the video there. If you have found this useful and informative, hit the like button. I really do appreciate that. If you happen to be new to the channel, why not go ahead and subscribe, tap the bell, select all notifications, and in doing so you will be kept up to date with everything that we do here at Cheeky Crypto. With all that said, done, and out of the way, I hope everyone has a fantastic day, and I'll catch you all in the next one.